Hey guys, how's it going? Today we have a new tutorial how to use the MCPs from Xano with ChatGPT with a third-party frontend like WhatsApp. I won't go really into details about the WhatsApp setup. I will show you the principal things that you need to do in order to achieve this setup. And I will also go through some technicalities that you need to be aware of whenever you work with MCPs. So let's get started. First of all, we have a few tables. One of them is called messages, where we pretty much store the conversation history. We have also a table called conversation. It's a pretty basic table. We also have a few other tables. We have one called contacts, and that's it. We just have, well, and we have a last one that is called availability. Now this is just a quick example. There's definitely could be some changes here in this simple database structure, but this is just to show you what can you do with MCPs. So I will show you the whole setup right now, how it works. So this is the chat. This is a business account that you create through the Meta API. You need to set up a phone number. They will send you an SMS. You set it up in their system, and then after you have that number set up, before that, obviously you need to have created an app inside Meta, and then after you have set up the phone number, you just need to set up that webhook in Xano that will receive the messages. And I will show you how to set it up in a really quick way. I hope it's enough for you guys to do it by yourself. Also, you can always have the support from ChatGPT. Now, this is the example. So let's say, by the way, this works in Spanish. This is something that we might want to set up in Spanish for the future. That's why I set it up in Spanish. But I hope either way, I will translate the messages. So I'm just going to say hello. I'm just going to say hello, and let's see what the system responds. This is not calling any tools from the MCP. This is just calling that chatbot from AI, pretty much. So this is just ChatGPT responding. Hello, what can I help you with today? Do you want to book an appointment with a psychologist, or do you need information about something else? So I'm just going to say yes. Let's see. I would like to book an appointment. And then it's going to ask us a few things. If we want the appointment to be online, or if in presence, physically, or if we have also a date in mind. So I'm just going to say online, and I would like to see what availabilities. Oh my God, I need to write it in Spanish. Online. Y quisiera. What availability do you guys have next week? ¿Qué disponibilidad tendrán la próxima semana? So I will show you then the tools that we use to set this up. So it responded, hey, I have reviewed the availability for next week, and we have 2 open spaces. So for Monday, 12 May at 12, well, we have a random date here from 12:53 p.m. to 1:53 p.m. and also on Tuesday from 13th of May from 12:53 p.m. to 1:53 p.m. So I would like to book the first date. So let's say, and let's type it in English. I want to book the date on Monday. I want to book on Monday. So it will understand the message either way. It's AI. So to book, and it responds in English. To book the appointment on Monday, I will need your full name and any other relevant details you would like to provide for the booking. Okay, so my name is James Abad. That's it. And then you might see one of the limitations here. So we have an appointment. It has repeated again the message. So this is a technicality that we will talk about in a minute. Hello, James. you know that it changed from English to Spanish again. So hello James, I have reviewed the availability from Monday for Monday, and there's an open space. It's pretty much repeating the information that he gave us here. Do you want help to book this schedule or this this date? So let's say yes, I want to book that date, that space. So let's see the response that we get here. So it says, I confirm with you that I have already booked this space in online. Let us know if you need anything else. Have a nice day. But let's check Xano. Let's check it out. So let's go here and let's take a look to the availability table. And there's an issue. As you guys can see, we had to book the call for May 13. But there's a problem. Why did we get the ID number 1? This should have been the ID number 6, if I'm not wrong, right? Let's just check the messages from WhatsApp. So we decided Monday 12th of May. What is the issue here? What is happening? So the first thing that happened is we got the array of availabilities that we have within next week. So we have, these two options for next week because May 11 it's tomorrow, so it's Sunday, it's still this week. So it responded properly here, but what's the issue? Whenever we said, hey, let's book the date for Monday, we didn't respond with a correct ID. We didn't say, hey, let's book the availability number 7. So whenever ChatGPT doesn't have total clarity of which availability we want to book, is when the issues happens. Why? Because one of our tools here, the book appointment, is expecting an availability ID. So that's why we had that issue. Obviously, here it's important that you set up the proper settings here for the MCP instructions. And also the instructions for each tool, but it's also important that you make sure that ChatGPT receives the correct data, where they not need to overthink things, where they just have the ID, where it's just super simple for them to just book the proper availability. So obviously this is not what we want. I'm going to keep investigating, the best way to set it up. So I'm just going to say, hey, let's book. Hey, I want to book the availability with ID 6, for example, and it's just going to book the proper availability. It's not going to be even ask us. So they just confirm that we have booked that. So if I go back to the system, I check the availability, it's booked, but it didn't pass the information JSON. So that's important. We need to make sure that they pass information JSON as it did right here, like modality and full name. So I might need to do some tweaks on the prompts that I have where it's required. For example, I should have made that input required inside this tool for them to just fulfill. This is a JSON, it's not an object with a specific structure, but it will make sense to have a specific structure with an object here where we make the fields required, like this object in general, and any required field, also required here in the API. In that way, we can just send the error, but we need to let the user know what error has happened because, some information is missing, so we need to ask them for that information. So this is pretty cool, the possibilities that we have now to working with this type of dynamic flow is just amazing. I'm just going to show you super quick what's the setup here in WhatsApp. So as I said, we have a webhook where we receive the messages first. In order for you to sync a webhook with Facebook, you need to create a GET request. I don't know why they send you a GET request first, where you just need to respond with a certain object. Once you have this webhook approved, when you are responding with the proper data, by the way, you need to respond. So Meta kind of sends you a password, and you need to respond. Obviously, this needs to be a GET request in order for you to get that data, even though it's a webhook, so it's weird that it's a GET request. It should be a post. But you get the GET request first, and then you need to respond and set the headers to respond as text. So you need to say, you need to set the headers so you can respond with a text string. That's it, not a JSON or as Xano has by default. So you need to change the headers, and once you send that data back to Facebook, they approved your webhook, and now you can just change it to be a post request, and this is where we create the whole flow. We first get all the data from webhook, from Facebook. We transform this huge JSON into different objects. We create here the object change, where we make sure that, like, you can also set up multiple notifications for one single webhook. We only want to receive messages here. So we check that the change that field is equals messages. We then filter the value in case the messages array is null or is empty, because we want to make sure that that array has data. Once we confirm that that array has data, we get the contact in case we already have the number, because this is the WA ID, this is the phone number of the user. If we don't have that phone number, we create that user, and then we get the message from WhatsApp. We edit the record from contacts with the last message add. Why this is important? Because if your last message has happened in more than 24 hours, we generate a new conversation. Apart from that, we have this conditional if we need to create a new conversation, or if we just need to edit the current conversation to also have the last message added now. I want to keep track of that field in both places. Then I add the record inside messages as an incoming message from a user of WhatsApp. We set all of the information here, the whole raw webhook, the content, the type of message. This is all data that we get from Meta. It's not that complex. And then if the conditional equals incoming, it means we have received this message. Because what happens? Whenever we also send a message, this webhook gets triggered with some information. So whenever we send a message, we don't want to do any of these conditionals, because this is conditional is to respond to the message of the user. So if the message is an incoming message, so it's coming from the user, we get the message history, and we create a new JSON with all of this message, history. And then we pass this to the chatbot API endpoint that Xano, this is the same tutorial that I used the other day. So I will also leave the description for this tutorial where they help you set up the whole MCP server. I won't be talking about that today. And I pretty much just pass the same inputs that they request. So I pass the system prompt, where I change a few things. I pass the user query, and finally I pass the conversation, the whole conversation history. So that's cool. Apart from that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Once we get a response, we add this response to the message history, because we not only want to save the history of the message that the user sent to us, but also we want to store the history of the message that we respond to them. So ChatGPT has an idea of the whole conversation, what's going on between the system and the user. Finally, we send this message to WhatsApp. This is a simple API request to send a message, and this is how the whole flow works. It's pretty straightforward. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope it was it's helpful. The idea that you kind of start getting whenever you start working with MCPs, that you always want to send the proper data to ChatGPT so they can use the tools properly without sending any random information, just like they did on the first scenario. I will keep sharing tips on how to set up the prompts or the instructions for MCPs, and how can we achieve the best performance out of them. Thank you so much for watching.